Hello and welcome to this special report at XM.com. I'm Maria Bashir and joining me is investment analyst Marios Hadjikyriacos. We'll be discussing what's been happening with Brexit and the outlook for the pound. So Marios, the latest Brexit proposals by British Prime Minister Johnson, which aimed to replace the controversial Irish backstop, were shot down by the EU. But yesterday we saw this whole narrative turn around when British and Irish leaders said they may have found a pathway towards a deal. Do you think a deal is still possible before the EU summit next week?
That's $1 million question, I have to say. Okay, so here's the thing. There have been very few details of what was actually agreed or discussed between the Irish PM Varadkar and Boris Johnson. From the few leaks that have emerged, it seems that Johnson made a compromise on the Irish border. So specifically, he said that Northern Ireland will officially leave the EU customs union, but it will continue to follow EU customs regulations and the single market regulations, it's really a big compromise. If it's true, it's a huge compromise on the UK side. And it also might be a game changer for the negotiations. So the negotiations are back on track. And if Boris really did blink, we may even see a deal before very long. Now here's the catch though. If Boris really compromised on that, he will probably get a deal from the EU, but that deal will probably not pass the UK Parliament. He already doesn't have a majority in Parliament, and if he has really softened his stance that much, that means he will probably lose the support of the more extreme Brexiteers in his party. So I think we're headed for a deja vu of the whole Theresa May's deal being rejected by Parliament story. So yeah, we might see a deal get done in the coming weeks, but I very much doubt that is going to pass the UK Parliament, especially since it's highly doubtful that Northern Irish politicians will support anything like that.
Okay, so assuming there is no deal, or that a deal is rejected by Parliament, what happens in the next Brexit saga, and what might that mean for the pound?
Well, let's assume we do get a deal. That's a big assumption, but let's go with that. I think it gets shot down in Parliament, and what happens next? We are very likely to see a Brexit extension. So there's a law forcing Boris Johnson to ask for an extension by the 19th of October. I think that happens, and after that, we will probably see a general election get called. So the dates I'm looking at are either late November or early December. But either way, what does that mean for the pound? I think that an election would be positive for the pound, and I think we could see a relief rally. And here's the argument. There are two main scenarios that could come from a general election. Either Boris gets re-elected with a strong majority and suddenly he can push any deal that he brokered with the EU through the UK Parliament, or we see the opposition gain power and it might be a pro-second referendum coalition between Labour, the Liberal Democrats and the SNP, for example. Either of these outcomes is positive for the pound. So I think that once we see a general election being called, the pound could extend the recent gains that we've seen it post.
So the pound could see a relief rally when an election is called. But looking beyond that, what is the broader outlook for the currency?
Well, that is really going to depend on what happens with the general election, so who wins, what are the policies and so on. But overall, I'm not ready to turn bullish on the pound in the long term yet. There are still a lot of uncertainties. First of all, will a deal even get made? If it gets made, will it pass the UK Parliament even if Boris gets a stronger majority? Will it pass the EU Parliament? Overall, there are a lot of things are still up in the air. Perhaps equally importantly, the UK economy is weakening. We've really seen it struggle. It might enter a technical recession soon, and that means that the Bank of England will most probably start to cut rates, which also argues for the pound to underperform in the longer term. So to summarize, we could see a relief rally in the pound over the next couple of months, let's say, once an election is called especially, but I wouldn't count on that being sustained in the long term.
I see. Marios, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks for watching at XM.com.